Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 206 of the Sticks and the Six podcast, and really the final episode of season 5 before we take our little 2-week hiatus, as we always do every year. But before we get into all the fun stuff, we got a fun little interview coming on today. Steve Peters, who was formerly with the Arizona Coyotes, Phoenix Coyotes at the time as well, and he'll be coming on to talk a little Maccelli, a little bit hockey in Arizona. But before we get to all of that, how you doing this week, Peter?
Doing great, yeah. I mean, kind of felt like July there was a little bit more to talk about with like a little bit rumors and everything like that, but everything is kind of calmed down except for, what we're going to get into with Nick Robertson. But yeah, it kind of feels like definitely the dog days of summer are here and here to stay, I guess, until start of the season, unless something does break, especially in regards to the Maple Leafs. Who knows what's going to happen with Robertson at this point? They're still in the market for a top six forward. Who knows if that's going to happen at this point? But yeah, still a lot of what ifs, still a lot of question marks of what Tree needs to do. But I guess you could say the offseason has been a bit of a success regardless because of what he's been able to accomplish to try and change the culture and mindset of this team right now. And you're seeing that with the players that they're getting, that this is going to be a more of a workhorse kind of team, and that's going to wear you down. So, yeah, I think I'm going to be. I'm just going to probably make a prediction right now. We take the 2 weeks off, and there's going to be a big Nick Robertson trade. Then we'll probably have to come back with an emergency pod for that. But hey, I'm not complaining at that point. So,
yeah, it's slowly tinkered off from like being a 1 month off kind of thing where we first few years we did one month off in August to now like the off season isn't really an off season anymore. It's like the Stanley Cup final ends in like late May, early June, and we're still talking hockey, we're still talking Leafs, we're still talking free agency and all that stuff late into August, right before we get into the season previews. Yeah, no, it's been a week. It's been a week for us here. I treated myself to some new ink, so I finished off the lower leg sleeve.
I was about to say, I saw that little sneak peek that you did.
Yeah, pretty jacked about it. It was obviously, as you saw on X, it was my birthday yesterday, so celebrating the big 3-7, getting few more grays and a few more aches and pains, but outside of that, here. There you go. But yeah, outside of that, it has been a slow couple weeks for the Leafs. It's been a slow couple weeks for the NHL. Matthew Tkachuk was named to the cover of EA Sports NHL 26, also named to this new stupid cabinet for President Trump. So again, not a political podcast, so we're not going to talk about that. But anyways, we do have to talk about Matthew Schaefer, the number 1 pick, signing his ELC with the New York Islanders. Such an important move, especially from a CHL standpoint. Obviously, the goal for Matthew Schaefer is to be in the NHL next season. He has the skill set. He has the opening with the Islanders having moved Dobson to make that jump to the NHL. But by signing his ELC, if he doesn't make that jump to the NHL, he will be back in the O. And that's positive news for the CHL considering all the names they've lost. So that's a big thing out of Long Island and having Schaefer locked into his 3-year ELC. For those who don't know, that makes him ineligible for the NCAA, which is why he would be back in the OHL. But
I kind of feel like OHL is probably the best bet for him. Don't rush him into the NHL at this point because of the injury history that he's had. Obviously, like even when we were at the CHL Awards, he was joking about how he's got to keep his head up a little bit more and not run in the post kind of thing. So he's joking about that, but at the same time, I just want to see a full season of health with Matthew Schaefer because I feel like next season, if he is healthy, he's just going to be absolutely dominant. Especially with defenders too, you don't want to rush him. I get he has like a lot of the skill set, the intangibles, and everything like that. But I just want to see one season of him, one more in the OHL with a full season, and then he could probably make the jump right away.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the goal is to develop these kids properly. If he has room to grow. He's still a lankier type of kid. he's got time to make that jump. And I don't think, like, right now the Islanders aren't in a spot to be competitive. It's that age old question of, do you add a player of his magnitude to a team that is not yet ready to win? And do you put him into a losing culture? We've seen that with Bedard. Obviously, a rough second season. Macklin Celebrini actually made the Sharks better, if you can say that. They still finished in the bottom half of the
They got
league.
Michael Misa out of it, but
They got
he
Michael Mies out
himself.
of it. But there was growth from Celebrini and Will Smith and Eklund, and there was growth there. So I think that was important. We saw it with the Oilers for years, the number one picks, Nail Yakupov, Taylor Hall, Nugent Hopkins, trying to rush these guys into a losing atmosphere, and it just didn't work out well for most of them.
I was about to say,
albeit they came around later on, but
you could probably throw an Alexi Lafreniere in there too, because that was a little bit of a weird draft. And an NA and the New York Rangers, a team that was borderline playoffs, missed out, wins the lottery, and they already had a stacked roster as is, and there was basically no room for him to grow as a player.
Yeah, there's an expectation that a top 5 pick now is going to be potential NHL within the next year or two. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't always be the case. I mean, you talk about Shane Wright and the conversation around him. His first year was he was so up and down. There was lots of questions. They were ruining his development. When really they probably bettered his development, aside from not getting the playing time he needed, by sending him down at one point in the year. And
it was worth it.
It was worth it. He's come back. He's a little bit better for it, I think. And you got to focus on that. The end goal is development. Like, don't rush a guy out and then rush a young kid in just to try and save face with the fans and say, well, now we've got Matthew Schaefer in the lineup. If you ruin his overall development, you've done yourself a disservice. You've done the player a disservice. You've done your fans a disservice. So I think that's the way you have to look at it.
Absolutely.
Another guy that we could talk about is development, and one that kind of ties back into the Maple Leafs, obviously, is Nick Robertson. And, a year ago, we were talking about how this guy wanted out of Toronto. He wanted to be traded. That was it. Sat down for a meeting with Craig Berube, kind of learned about what his role was going to be with the team. Ended up going out having 14 goals, one shy of his career high. Averaged 12 minutes per game, which is a new career high, but just a little higher than what he had averaged the previous season. And I made the prediction earlier last year, before the season got started, that this is a guy who, if given the opportunities, given the right time on ice, I'm talking like 15 to 16 minutes per game, he's a 20 to 25 goal scorer. Mm-hmm. He averaged 12 minutes per game. He played, I believe it was 69 games this year. And he finished with 14 goals. So pretty on par with what the expectation is. But they avoid arbitration, which is huge. He was asking for 2.25. The Leafs were looking at 1.2, so separated by over $1 million, and they settle at 1.825. Now there's a lot of question marks as to whether he got the better end of the deal. Obviously, he had to only come down about 400,000, whereas the Leafs had to go up from what they wanted by 600,000. At the end of the day, you've got a guy that can put up 20 to 25 goals, has the potential to, a little bit inconsistent, defensive woes for sure when it comes to Nick Robertson, but you've got a guy that can add to your offense, add to the depth, especially when losing Mitch Marner, and he's a hell of a trade chip when you think about it, in Nick Robertson for the next year at $1.8 million.
Yeah, and there's already like trade chatter with like teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins. Obviously Kyle Dubas drafted him. There's that familiarity right there, and in theory, it is another good bet on Robertson to try and not necessarily crack the roster, but try to elevate his play and move further up into the lineup, because that second line left wing position is basically at a premium right now, because Matthew Nice is going to be on the top line, but you have to wonder about Matias Maccelli and even Dakota Joshua at this point as well, because Joshua can play both center and left wing. Maccelli can play left wing and right. And that kind of fills out the second and third line right there, depending on what's going to happen with Maccelli. Is he going to play on the right side or the left side? He can play both. So there's that versatility. But at this point right now, Depth-wise, it kind of feels like Nyes, Maccelli with an asterisk, and then Dakota Joshua on that third line. So where does that leave Nick Robertson? This is basically, I know we kind of said last year was kind of like a do or die kind of season for him. This really does feel like that, because if he can't move further up into the lineup, find that consistency in terms of that overall play, we know he can score. We know he's got a wicked shot, but he is, really just not really making that move. He's not making that jump. And if he's able to do that, then it's going to work out fine. And then you can probably get him extended a little bit later on, because he is a younger guy. But at the same time, this kind of feels like the last one. And if you could get him for a top 6 that has term, maybe change the scenery, who knows what can happen. But I do feel like this is the year for Robertson, where it's either make or break, or it's just basically try to find him a new home at that point.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. It comes back to consistency, right? Like we talked about it. Mm-hmm. We've talked about all season long, and then again this offseason. Inconsistency is what has plagued Robertson. Injuries have plagued Robertson. For him to get this deal, it's either a movable contract at a 1-year deal, or it's a guy that really has to go out there and prove himself this season. And you don't have that Mitch Marner playing in front of you anymore. So there's an opportunity here in the lineup for him, and it's going to be important for him this year to get off to a hot start. Like I said, averaging 15 minutes a game, there's no reason why this guy can't put up 20 to 25 goals.
Absolutely, yeah. And joining us right now is our guest for the episode as we get into our Matias Maccelli talk, Steve Peters, who was a video scout for 20 plus years with the Phoenix and Arizona Coyotes, but also with Team North America at the World Cup just a few years back in 2016-17. And he is also...
What else do I do, Peter? What else do I do? That's enough.
What else? I don't know.
Video coach for 23 years is enough. Because that's enough. That's enough. But we got to talk about those Leafs. I don't know. You guys are like, this is tough. This is tough for you guys. This top 6, the conundrum you're in with your top 6 this year versus last year is going to be a big deal for the Leafs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And before we get into the whole Matias Maccelli talk, Steve, again, thank you for coming on to talk about him and about the implications. And no better person than with you, who has followed his early NHL career the last 3 years. But just give us a little bit of insight to your career, and how did you get into video scouting and coaching?
It's fun. My dad was a college coach, so I was really close to the game. I tried to play. I played in college, and that was it for me. And I just got lucky, knew the right people. I knew Bobby Smith, who got me on I knew him through the hockey circles through Minnesota. He became the general manager of the Arizona Coyotes back in the late 90s. I needed a job. I wanted to get into coaching. And honestly, the video coach for the Arizona Coyotes quit 2 weeks before the season started. He said, you can have the job, but you got to start tomorrow. And I started the next day, and I stayed there for 23 years. And it was something that I wanted to do. It's like when you get those dream jobs, you think, yeah, I'd really like to do that. And just the dominoes fell at the right time, the right place. And I turned it from a dream to a career. And it lasted through the pandemic, and then the bubble, things changed, and the Coyotes decided they were going a different direction. And then I got behind the microphone like you guys.
Well, you got the perfect setup for it. I was going to say, I love love the backdrop. I got to get one of those on-air things here, but no, Steve, definitely. We thank you a lot for coming on, and the Leafs are a little bit further away from the Arizona Coyotes, but as you mentioned, we've got a lot to discuss when it comes to the top 6 of this team, especially with the departure of Marner and whether you agree with the way it happened or not. It creates that little bit of opportunity for guys like Maccelli, for guys like Nick Robertson. Give us a little insight, having seen him early on in his career. Who is Matias Maccelli? What can Leaf fans expect from this guy?
This is tough. This is a kid that came in here. I think he's a 4th-round pick, so you don't expect much out of a 4th-round pick. 2019 4th-rounder, and you go, those guys usually don't make the team. Like, let alone play a significant role in the National Hockey League when you're drafted that late. But when he got an opportunity, he got a lot of opportunity to play in 22-23. And he played a lot of games. And to be honest, this kid, that first season, he gets 49 points in 22-23, and he's 4th in Calder voting. just behind Stu Skinner. Like this was an unbelievable breakout year for this kid. And you go, my gosh, this kid could actually be something. And then he struggled when he gets to Utah. His skill set, he's a playmaker. He's got great vision, and he can make plays that a lot of people, and I know this is going to sound cliche, but he can make a lot of plays that other guys can't make. Like I'm talking top end guys. Like he can make passes through 3 or 4 sticks. He can make those no-look backhand sauce passes through a crowd and put it on the tape. He really can. And I'm not kidding. You go see some of his highlight reel assists, unbelievable plays. The problem was he became a one-trick pony in that first year in Arizona. He didn't shoot. He was just a passer. And I think that once people started to defend him more, he needed to find that next skill. He needed to find the ability to shoot and score. And I think he picked that up his second year in Arizona. You look at 17 goals, and he started to become a guy that could shoot to score. And again, he gets more than 50 points that season. And you go, okay, he's on track. Like this kid's a high-skilled player. He's a good skater. He's not going to blow you away with his speed. He's a good skater, so he can cover ground, but he's not going to blow the doors off you with speed. He's not a big guy, so he's not going to. He competes, but he's not a guy that's going to dig you the puck out of the corner. He's going to try, but he's a smaller frame guy, and this is all about his ability to see the ice and to move the puck to guys that can finally put the puck in the net.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like he was becoming more of a commodity or a potential asset for the Coyotes when they drafted him back in 2018-19, where he had 72 points in the USHL, albeit, developing junior league at that moment. But then he goes to the Liga, has some success there, and then he makes a jump over back to North America, and then he has 57 points with the Tucson Roadrunners. So they kind of felt like there was still that steady progression with his game from being drafted, playing at the pro level, and then coming back and playing at the pro level again, albeit a different ice surface.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought, like, when you see the kid play, and that first year where he really got to play, where he played 64 games, that first year he played 22 games, he just got called up late. But you saw this kid click. And the biggest reason I think he clicked in Arizona at the time was his line mates. And he played with Nick Bugstad in the middle, and he played with Lawson Krause on the other side, and that line had a role. It was a third line for the Arizona Coyotes, and they played in a lot of different situations, but they were consistent. They were consistent for 2 seasons. Like, that was just the line. And I think that was one of the things that helped him get through that. He played with 2 veteran players that really helped him grow when in his first couple of years in the league. And I think that made the game a lot easier for him. Like, he had 2 big body guys that could help get the puck out of the corners. And then he was the guy that delivered it to the blue paint, and those guys tapped it in. So I think it was really good chemistry. And I think that's another thing that really helped him early in his career.
You mentioned about the 2 big bodies. Sorry, Andrew. I just wanted to follow up. You mentioned about the 2 big bodies with Bugstad and Krause. Obviously, there's that spot open on the right wing. Obviously, you don't want to set major expectations for Maccelli, but given how Matthew Knies is another big power forward himself, Matthew Knies has that frame. Austin Matthews has that frame to, be a lethal goal scorer in tight or from anywhere on the ice. Do you get a sense that there could be a fit with Maccelli on that top line, despite the fact that, he's been a middle 6 player his whole entire career, but the potential for him to move up is there?
I do, but and this I'm going to try to say this as fairly as I can. Matthew Knies, first, I think Matty Knies, Arizona-born kid, by the way. Matthew,
absolutely, yeah.
Just got to throw
Arizona
that out.
Connection, Arizona connection, possibly for that line.
But let's be honest. Like, these are two highly skilled, high-end players in the National Hockey League. Like, if this is the Columbus Blue Jackets, Maccelli would slide into the top line and it would be fine. This isn't the Columbus Blue Jackets. This is the Toronto Maple Leafs. The expectations when you put on the Maple Leaf and that blue sweater are just higher. They just are. And your expectations when you play for the Leafs is you're expecting Mitch Marner right now. He's not Mitch Marner. He's not. He doesn't have the hockey IQ. He's a good player. He's a really good player. Marner's exceptional. And so I think the concern for me, do I think he can play with those guys? I think the answer is yes. I think his pace of play can keep up with those guys. I think he can deliver them the puck. I think Knies is going to have a better year than he did last season. I expect great things from Matty Knies. I really do. I think he's going to be a top playoff performer next season. But I'm not sure Matias Maccelli should or could get that spot on day one in September when they hit the ice for training camp. I'm not sure Maccelli should be penciled in there quite yet. I think by December, and you're starting to push, and now he's got comfortable in that playing in that atmosphere. Hey, this isn't the Mullet Arena with 4,000 people anymore. This isn't Salt Lake City that has 5,000 obstructed views. This is Toronto, and I do think I would like to see the kid ease into it a little bit more, giving an opportunity to succeed at a different level. But let him get there and let him earn his spot with Matthews and Nice. And I'm not sure, after he sat out 20 of the last 25 games in Utah, that he's quite ready to bite off that kind of a role day one with Toronto.
I'm glad that you brought up his compete level earlier, because one of the disappointing factors with Marner was come playoff time when things got tough, it got physical. Marner tend to shy away, and all of a sudden you were seeing Marner's picture up on milk cartons where's he been, right? But Maccelli is smaller. He does play with a little bit of an edge, and with that, it brings a little bit more intensity when the times get tough in the playoffs. Is he a guy that can help benefit? We're not looking to replace Marner here.
Yeah,
we're looking for a guy that can bring those extra intangibles that maybe Marner didn't bring come playoff time, if and when the Leafs make it.
Well, clearly what Marner brought didn't work. I think he's an exceptional player that does a lot of good things very, very well. But how many times can you kick the can and go, okay, we got to try something different? This is something different. And one of the things with Mitch Marner needs the puck too. Like, Mitch Marner wants to be one of the guys. I tell you what, if Maccelli's playing with Nyes and Matthews, dude doesn't need the puck. Like, I'll get you the puck, you guys do the rest. I'll get the puck to you. He understands his role, I think. And that might be one of the things that might make this line even more dangerous, is because, Marner doesn't need his touches. Maccelli doesn't need his touches like Marner does. And you're right, he does have that little bit more of I want to call it a gem. He does have a motor. He is going to give that effort, and he is going to try to play 200 feet. He takes pride in trying to play that 200-foot game that I think is extremely important. But in Toronto, you need guys that play like that. And you talked about Dakota Joshua. He's another guy that plays like that. I think Matty Nyes plays like that. You've got some guys that don't. And Marner might be one of those guys. Marner was great game 1 through 82. I'll take him all day long. Game 83 and on, I'm not so sure. So I do think Matias Maccelli is going to be the player that fits in that slot eventually. I really, really do. And it might be the end of training camp. It might be after a few preseason games. He might earn his way onto that. It might. Again, selfishly, I don't want to see the kid thrown into that ocean on day one of training camp, practice one. And I just think that let him get his feet settled. And it might be 3 or 4 preseason games, and you go, well, you know what? He fits there. He's moving the puck well. He's playing with a lot of confidence. Coach believes in him. We're going to run with him. He might be there day one. And if you're looking at your other options, you're looking at Max Domi or Dakota Joshua or Bobby McMahon. Maccelli's the right fit over those guys. Like, Maccelli's the guy over those guys. So I do think at some point he will play with those guys. I just can't be convinced yet that it's going to be day one.
Steve, I really enjoyed your breakdown initially when the Maple Leafs acquired Maccelli, because obviously because of the experience with Arizona, the player a little bit well with the video analysis and all that. And the one thing that I really took from that was, again, Maccelli's ability to attack from the half wall and the boards and then drive the middle of the ice. Mitch Marner never really had that luxury, because every single day, especially on the power play too, he would always be on the perimeter. Maccelli as well, but it kind of felt like Maccelli was driving a little bit more. Marner would curl back, be a little bit more patient, never had those opportunities from the point, especially on the power play. How big of an impact is Maccelli going to have a little bit more than Marner per se in terms of that 5-on-5 power play kind of role, if he is in that spot?
It'll be different. It's going to be a different offensive look than you're going to get with Marner. One of the things Marner liked to do when he didn't have space is he'd climb to the top of the offensive zone, get closer to that blue line where he could get more space. I don't think you're going to see that from Maccelli. Maccelli is going to try to, if he's going to look for space, he's not going to look for it high in the zone. If anything, he's going to go lower in the zone and try to create that from below the goal line. So I do think you're going to get a different look. And I do think he wants to get himself into the interior. I think it's hard for him because of his size, but I do think he's got a desire to play there, and he understands that if he's going to be successful in the National Hockey League, he's got to find a way to get between the dots. And so I do think it's going to bring a different a different look to this Toronto Maple Leaf top six for a guy that is going to have that different look and try to get the puck into the middle of the ice or try to get the puck down low below the goal line versus trying to pull everything out to the top and then trying to feather something through a crowd. I do think it's going to be a different look. And the biggest thing for him, Peter, is for Maccelli is going to be his confidence. And he's going to have to build that with a coach that, hey, you've got to earn your way right now with the Chief and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mm-hmm. And he got on the outs with Andre Tourigny. And he got to the point last season where he just couldn't do anything right. And if he made a mistake, he was out of lineup. And it got to be a relationship between the coach. And I like Andre Tourigny a lot. I just think the two of them, they got to a point where he didn't trust Matias Maccelli. And as a young player, and your coach loses trust in you, you start to lose your confidence. And then when you did get to play, you're so tight, you have to do everything right, that you make more mistakes. And I think it spiraled for Matias. And that's why I think it's so critical in Toronto that I think that the coach and he have that relationship that, okay, kid, you're going to earn your way here. We're not just throwing you to the wolves. And I think once he gets that confidence and goes, oh my gosh, I can play here. I do have the skill to play here. Yeah, I think he can be an exceptional player for this team. Like really good hockey player for this team. I just want to make sure that it goes in a process, that there's a procedure for him to get to that spot and it's just not anointed to him. Because if he's anointed on that line right away, then the expectations are from the Toronto Maple Leaf fans, media, inside the locker room, the coaching staff is, well, he's there. No, that's he's got to play like Marner and he's got to take Marner's role. And I'm just not ready. I'm not sure he's ready for that big of a bite yet.
It's interesting too. Like I think Andre Tourigny, I mean, I want to say less experienced coach in terms of like what the way he approaches the game versus like Craig Berube. I think Craig Berube gives that little bit of opportunity for these guys to grow, which is going to benefit Maccelli. But my question, I guess, going in is when Nylander came into this league, I was hard on him. 2 years of 60 points. I was ready to write him off. Obviously, he's now a 40-goal scorer who's maybe a centerpiece for this Maple Leafs franchise. What Maccelli's a guy who's as you mentioned reached that 45-50 point mark in two of his first, let's say, 3.5 seasons. What's his ceiling? Has he reached that ceiling, or are we set to see more from, as you mentioned, a 4th round pick?
This is going to be a critical season to find that out. And I've talked to people in Toronto and had the opportunity to, I know there's a lot of Arizona Brad Treliving's there, Shane Doan is there. Like I know some people in the organization, and it's the same question. And I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. I think I believe last year was an aberration. I think this was the outlier, was last season. And you got to keep in mind, this whole franchise moves from Arizona to Salt Lake City. And Matias Maccelli wasn't the only player to fall off a cliff, statistically. Mm-hmm. Like this was a difficult move. Guys that had lived, like Lawson Krause was a player, drafted there, played there, had his home there, his family there. And all of a sudden he's uprooted right when he's going to have a child and sell his house. And he struggled last year. Now, whether those on ice, off ice things creeped into his game, I don't know how they don't. I don't know how they can't. And I think Matias Maccelli is a guy that got comfortable in the spot in Arizona. And you're not under a microscope in Arizona. You weren't. You're not. You're playing in 4,000 seat stadium, and you're just not in the center of the hockey universe. And I think even in Salt Lake, they were getting more national attention. They were on TV, national TV more often. And I think guys adjusted differently. And he was one of those guys that didn't adjust extremely well. I think it's in him. I think the bar is high. And a part of the conditional pick for this trade is the 51 point mark. In my opinion, again, I think he blows by that. I mean, to think he's not going to get 51 points playing with the offensive tools that are in Toronto, I don't know if he's going to be a first power play guy, or if he's going to be a second unit power play, but he's a power play guy. Like he's going to be a guy that can help deliver the puck to the right areas. And he knows he played a power play a lot in Arizona on the number 2 unit because they had Clayton Keller and Schmaltz that were on the top unit. But I do think he's going to blow past the 51 point. I take the over. I don't know if there's gambling up there, but if there is, take the over on Matias Maccelli in the 51 point mark.
I was just about to ask too. I mean, obviously this was a tough season for Maccelli and a lot of other players as well, as you mentioned. And you did kind of answer it in terms of like, was this season kind of like just an anomaly in his game, considering the steps that he took in his first 2 years, taking that step back, falling out of favor with Tourigny. But given the depth chart of the Mammoth right now, a lot of quality wingers are starting to come up and move their way a little further up. They already got TJ Ginla. It's just basically one of those instances where, they have a little bit more faith in him coming up a few years later down the line and create that space for him, whereas Maccelli may not have been in that plan. Even again, the list could go on and on with Daniil Booth and a lot of other players as well.
Sure.
Does that kind of like fit in as well, or is it more so just like as you mentioned with Turney, the move and all that?
It's part of a couple of things too. The move certainly, and like I said, his comfortability playing with that line with Bukestad and Krause over those 2 seasons, they both came into camp injured, and so now he's shuffling up and down the lineup. I think that got him off on the wrong foot to start the season because he didn't have that comfortability with his line mates that he had so much success with. And then when you look at Utah's top forwards, they are Matias Maccelli. They're small skill. It's Keller. It's Gunther. Now it's JG Peterka. Mm-hmm. Like they've got that. And I think when you're looking at the experience, like he's not going to play ahead of Clayton Keller. Like he's not. He's captain of the team. He's all-time franchise leader, tied in Arizona and holds it in Utah. Like the kid can play. Like Matias Maccelli, they have so many small wingers. They needed something different there. And I think he was starting to get lost. And when you look at Toronto, that's not something they have an abundance of now, that small skill. Like they've got some like Matthews, and we talk Matthews and Nyes and Tavares and Nylander. They're not that. So I do think he's going to get more of an opportunity there than he did in Utah, because people ask me, well, he's not in the lineup in Utah. How the hell is he going to play in Toronto? Because he's different. He had too much of the sameness in Utah. And I do think it's a fresh start for him. He's 24. Like he's not 29. He's 24. And he struggled as a 23-year-old in a completely new, we call it a new franchise. And he had a tough year. I think this coach is going to give confidence in him. I think the locker room is going to be good for him. I think the fresh start's going to be good for him. I think Brad Treliving is going to go in there and go, hey, we believe in you, kid. That's why we got you here. And I just think that knowing he's going to be in the lineup every night, I think you're going to see him improve quickly. And I do think that's what's going to be the big difference from Utah to Toronto.
I got to ask you about another guy, a guy that came in and helped bolster and make the Leafs maybe one of the best defensive teams in the league last year, and that's Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And he altered his game over the last, let's say, 5 to 6 seasons in terms of coming from Arizona, where he played as an offensive defenseman. He was going to go out there and he was going to get those points and rack up those numbers, to a guy that's now, maybe second, third pairing, but really bolsters that defensive core. What in his game allowed him to make that change and really extend his career, essentially?
Yeah, he's an interesting player, because when he first came on with Arizona, he was a kid, and he happened to join the team when they went on that Western Conference run. And he played with some really experienced players, Acoin, Klesla. He had Keith Yandel on that team, Derek Morris on that team. So he learned from some very experienced players. But let's face it, that kid was unbelievably offensively gifted. He had over 20 goals back-to-back seasons in the National Hockey League, like at a slight guy that could move the puck. Unfortunately for him, he did get in some injury trouble then, and it just started to snowball for him. He gets the big contract. Now he's not living up to that contract, so the expectations are, hey, you're disappointing us in Arizona. You go to Vancouver again with that huge contract, and it was a pressure cooker for him. Expectations were too high. So when he gets out of Vancouver and goes to Florida, the letter is gone off his jersey, which isn't there anymore. The contract's not there anymore. Now you're just a role player. Now just go play. So kid can skate. He still can skate, but more importantly, he's a fantastic teammate, unbelievable teammate, and he understands the game of hockey. He's got a really high IQ. He's not going to blow you over in the corner and push you through into row 5 through the glass, but he's going to get the puck off your stick because he's got a good stick. He's smart. He knows when to be where he's supposed to be. Offensively, he could jump in. He might jump in. He might be your fourth man. He gets the first goal of the playoffs for the Leafs this season. Like, he's got that part of him, but now he's fit into a spot where he actually fits with where he should be at his point in his career, 34 years old, in that lower pair. But if you need him, if you need somebody goes down, he can play in your first power play. He has that ability if you don't play 5 forwards. But if you were going to throw a defenseman out, he knows how, and he can help you there, and he can play in the top pair. He did it in Florida. During the Stanley Cup run, he had to jump over and take those key minutes because somebody else was injured or out of the lineup. So I think for him with Toronto, he's one of those guys, like he might not be the dynamic guy that gets you over the top, But he is going to be a guy, if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you still need Morgan Riley. You need McCabe. You need those guys that are going to play and eat the big minutes. But you need a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson to come over the boards and not get in any trouble and not cause you trouble and not be a slow foot guy, because you can't have a slow foot guy on the back in Toronto. You can't. So I think he gives you that security. It's like a security blanket. You know you've got a guy that can play everywhere in your lineup. But where he fits now in that third pair, my gosh, you can win a Stanley Cup with Oliver Ekman-Larsson on your third pair.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he benefited, one of the beneficiaries of him being there was Simone Benoit, who really developed his game this past year as well. But before we let you go here, Steve, and first of all, thank you for coming on again.
You bet, Andrew.
Really appreciate
Episode,
it.
206?
206.
206, yeah.
Oh, my God. When did you guys start this? Were you start this when you were 15?
We started this right in the midst of the pandemic. I reached out to Peter and said, "Hey, we've never met. Let's start a show." So we've been doing it ever since.
Went online, got the curbside pickup for all my mics and everything. So yeah, that's
there you go. You guys do a great job. You do a great
Peter's
job.
been around for actually the birth of both my kids, so it's been through the screen, obviously. Through the screen.
Great job.
Anyways, the last thing I wanted to ask you before we let you go here, one of the big question marks is hockey in Arizona, and obviously the conversation now is that there's going to be more growth in the NHL. There's going to be more teams. The expansion's just around the corner. When the Coyotes left, there was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of upset fans. There is a fan base in Arizona. I think that's one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have. Does hockey work in Arizona, given that the arena is in the right spot?
Again, one of the problems with being here in Arizona is I've heard it for 20 years. I as part of the inner workings of that organization in our coaches' room, every single day we'd hear the negativity from the Canadian press that hockey doesn't belong there, doesn't work there. You can't get people in the seats. It's like anywhere. If you win, they'll be there. Like when that team went to the 2012 finals, the place was packed. There was energy in the city. The problem from literally, but not day one, it was day two, because the first owner, Richard Burke, the guy that brought it from Winnipeg to Arizona, was the right owner. He was the right guy. But he got into business with somebody that wanted to make a real estate deal. And that decision to move the team out of the East Valley to the West Valley killed the franchise for the next 20 years. And then it was just a cycle of bad ownership, throwing bad money at a bad situation. And it just continued. So to answer your question, it works here. And tell you why. When you look at the NHLPA did a poll of, hey, where would you like to see hockey go next? Where was first? Arizona. It was number one. The players want to play here. The agents want to have hockey here. Gary Bettman wants to have hockey here. Hockey belongs here. Like, I'm telling you, if they got a team tomorrow, free agents are coming to Arizona. They are. They want to be here for a lot of different reasons, especially if a team's going to start winning. They've got the fan base here. They will get attendance. They have the corporate money here. They have the ability to make it work. They just have to have an owner that's willing to spend money to win. And you have to build a building in the right area where the people are. You've seen it in Ottawa and Canada. It's hard there. You saw it in Sunrise, Florida, until they were winning Stanley Cups. Before that, they didn't get attendance there. Where the arena is matters. And so Arizona can absolutely make this work. Absolutely, without a doubt. If the owner of the Utah Hockey Club, Ryan Smith, had bought the team and left them here in Arizona, but put the backing and was the owner he is there, this thing would flourish in Arizona. So I still believe in hockey in the desert. I really do. And I think it'll be back. And maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I think there'll be hockey back in Arizona in the not too distant future.
Well, I will say it's changed the Leafs franchise, having hockey down in the desert. Obviously,
Sure has.
top line Matthews and Nyes, and it's been a game changer. And I tend to agree. We've had a few people on here from either the organization or people who've worked around the team, and everybody says the same thing. It's just a matter of having it in the right place, and it's going to flourish. And I tend to agree with you. So, but Steve, again, thank you so much for coming on and giving us more insight into what we can hopefully expect in the top six this season. And, we appreciate all the insight, and hopefully we can get you back on at some point down the road.
Absolutely. Anytime. You guys know where to find me, and good luck on show 207. Keep it up.
Appreciate it. Thank you again.
Appreciate it, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of great insight into a couple of players. I mean,
Absolutely.
we talked about.
Mhm.
I came to me at the end there. Oliver Ekman Larson's a guy that he would have been
Yeah.
familiar with as well, and
He was
um,
basically one of their top drafted and developed players before the downfall going to Vancouver, but then refining his game with the Florida Panthers. Yeah, no, that absolutely.
yeah, so it's it'll be interesting to see, and I like the insight of maybe starting Maccelli off in the on the top line is not the place for him, and
Mhm.
give him the opportunity to get comfortable and get into that lineup and play with the guys and not put that pressure of Maccelli versus Marner right off the get go, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like it's gonna work out well if that's the kind of pressure you put on him right away, and even if you don't say like this guy is here to replace Marner, there's a fan base here that have
That's going to suggest
expectations,
otherwise.
and
Yeah.
they're gonna.
Mhm.
It's a natural avenue for them to go. But yeah,
And
again, for
even
those who,
I was about to
sorry,
say,
go ahead.
even one more point with that second line, how that left wing spot is still available. You know how I mentioned that it's Nick Robertson's chance for the taking? It wouldn't be a bad idea to have Maccelli play alongside Tavares and Nylander, because
Mm-hmm.
basically that line will give you good balance. You have that kind of workhorse or a player willing to go into the corners like a Maccelli. You have that net front presence like Tavares, but you also have that shooter in Nylander.
Yeah,
So it wouldn't
yeah,
surprise me if you start him on that second line, give him that opportunity to move up from that third to the second line and be in the top six or middle six. And that would be a good sticking point to see how well he can do and develop. And if he's ready for that right spot, then why not? I agree with Steve. Don't start him off right away. Let him work his way up. But if in training camp he does play there one game and he pops off, roll with it. But then
well,
again,
and I
always
mean,
better to play it safe, right?
you stick him in that second line spot, and you give an opportunity to maybe Max Domi or somebody to
Mm-hmm.
eat up that first line.
Yeah.
The fact is, the Leafs lineup is not set, and
No.
there's a lot of
Still a month
conversation right
away.
now. Yeah, you mentioned Robertson and the link to Pittsburgh. There's a lot of conversation, and I'm actually writing a piece for the Hockey Writers right now that with this contract, it makes Robertson the most tradable asset that the Leafs
Mm-hmm.
have, right? Outside of Kampf, outside of Yarncroke, Nick Robertson's a 23-year-old that still has a lot of upside and a lot of
Value.
space
Yeah.
to reach and that ceiling, right? Again, a potential 25 goal scorer. Like that's the insanity about this right now. But outside of that, there is conversation that the Leafs are currently still trying to move money around. There's still conversation that the Leafs are in on Jack Roslovic, even
Mm-hmm.
though he's been linked to Vancouver. There's still a lot of conversation around that, and it's quite interesting to think that there's still the possibility that the Leafs could acquire a top six that could really nullify and make this entire conversation a moot point.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, again, for those who missed it, we just got off the call with former video coach of the Arizona Coyotes and Phoenix Coyotes, was there for 23 years, I believe he said 23
Yeah.
years. Steve Peters, doing some great stuff as well. We forgot to get him to shout out his own podcast, so we'll have to maybe you can link that up on X later. But
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, yeah, any last thoughts on Robertson and the deal and what this means for the Leafs or what we could see in our next little 2-week hiatus as we close out season 5 of Sticks of the Six?
Basically, an abundance of options. Again, if he sticks, then there's a spot for him, but he's got to work at it. If not, then there is a possibility of a trade mid-season, or maybe even right now. Maybe this was all a point to just probably get him under contract, get him close to the term or the monetary value that maybe he wanted. And I think it's still a happy medium for both player and team. But you could rest assured that there's going to be a team out there that's going to say, hey, you know what? At 1.8 million, we feel like there's an opportunity for you here, whether that's in Pittsburgh, whether that could be anywhere else, basically a team looking to try and get towards the cap. Although this team, I mean, this kind of deal isn't really going to do that, but it gives them an opportunity for a fresh start elsewhere. And I just think that it's a good move for the time being. It's a low value deal. It's under 2 million, but it's one that could have its benefits for the team or benefits for Robertson elsewhere. So it's either one of those two options.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, like I'd be pretty sure, although I want to see the Leafs give him that opportunity because how many times do we talk about drafting and developing players, and now here you have a guy who's been drafted by the Leafs and really, maybe had some developmental issues in terms of injuries and just up and down throughout the lineup, but I'd like to see them give him that shot. I'd like to see him go out and score 25 goals and see that growth in his game. I'd be shocked if he starts the year with Toronto. And if he does, I'd be shocked if he makes it to the deadline. I just think he's such a commodity that the Leafs can move. And if let's say he starts the season with the Leafs and over the first 15 games puts up like 5 goals, like I think you see him move very quickly. I think at that price tag, like, and knowing that he's an RFA still, so the team that gets him still owns his rights following this contract. There's just too much of a commodity there that the Leafs can't move on it. And if they go out and get Roslovic, it's gonna it'll change everything as well. So actually, before we close out here, a quick comment from Kevin Marlowe. Hey guys, and he wrote,
"Hey Kevin,
Yarncroke and Robinson for Bunting and Marchessault." I'm assuming you meant Robertson, Yarncroke and Robertson for Bunting and Marchessault. I'd be okay. I'd be okay bringing in Marchessault. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah,
I'm not set on it just because they're kind of set in terms of again, it's another smallish forward that plays with a little bit of edge. Bunting, I have no interest in bringing Bunting back, to be honest.
That experiment kind of fell off.
It just didn't work out well. Rust or Raquel? Brian
Raquel.
Rust.
We're going opposite ends right here. Okay.
You've been on Raquel for a long time, though. You've been on Raquel for a long time, since we started this podcast 5 years ago.
Yes. Ever since Rickard Raquel was with the Anaheim Ducks, I was always adamant of wanting to get him. I think it is the perfect fit because he's got that size, top 6 value, second line left wing, kind of plays with that edge, at least guaranteed 25, 30 goals, 60 points. I think that's your more ideal player. But if you're giving up Robertson for Raquel, you're going to have to sweeten that a little bit more. I don't think Robertson is going to get that
I want a first round pick as well.
First round pick. Yeah. Even if it's like a year or two away, even though we've given it up for 26 and 27, if it doesn't matter. I would love Rickard Raquel because he has that size. And I think maybe a little bit slower, but he still has that JT mindset. And I think, pairing up with a fellow countryman and William Nylander, I have no issues with that.
I think for me, first of all, congratulations to Kevin creating the most controversy on this podcast all season long. In the final episode
this is the way we go off.
Yeah, that's right. But I would say Rust. I mean, the way that he got thrown onto Crosby's line a few years back and was able to dominate, I think what a possibility that would be to throw him on Matthews and with Matthews and Nyes and have Brian Rust kind of feed off that. But again, both Raquel and Rust have a ton of injury issues. So, I mean, that'd be a big question mark as well. So, anyways,
both over $5 million, but both could get it done. So,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you're trading away $2 million in Robertson as well. So, or 1.8. But, anyways. Before we close it out, Peter, it's been another fun season.
Absolutely.
We've introduced the best outro music a podcast could ever have with our good friend over at our good friend Alex Hobson and his single. So if you haven't checked out his music on Spotify, make sure you check that out as well.
Check him out at the CNE as well because he's going to be there.
He's been killing it. He's been killing it.
Hamilton Tiger Cat shows. Yeah. Going to the CNE right now with all the other bands coming over there, we couldn't be more proud for Alex right now.
It's been an honor being even associated with him. So
absolutely,
shout
out. We got
to
get
Alex
some backstage passes one day for one of the shows.
That's right. But outside of that, it's been a hell of a season. I mean, we're back to the two of us, and it's been an absolute pleasure doing it again this season. We're gonna be back at it. Short break, 2 weeks. Obviously, if something happens in the next 2 weeks, we'll jump on. But we got a lot of exciting people coming on over the next month, late August into September. A lot of fun conversations to get the season rolling. We're going to break down every team as we have in the past as we get into season 6 of the Sticks and the Six podcast. And I got to say, we wouldn't be able to do it without the Hockey Podcast Network and everything they've done for us and bringing us on board and all the incredible shows they have over at the Hockey Podcast Network. So shout out to Dylan and Kyle over at THPN.
Big shot. Yeah.
No Name Hockey. If you want custom sticks, check out the link in our description. If you want tickets to even baseball, anything, check out SeatGeek. There's a promo code in our description, BioSteel. You need to hydrate this summer. It's been hot as hell. Make sure you check out that promo code as well. Outside of that, buddy, it's been one hell of a season.
Yeah.
The disappointment is real as a Leaf fan, but this makes it a little bit easier to take it all in and deal with it when you have a show like this where you can jump on and kind of shoot the shit and just get it all figured out. But anyways, that's it for us here at Sticks of the Six season 5. If all summer long you can check Peter and I both out at the Hockey Writers as well. We're there, we're writing, we never stop. There is no stopping. And we'll be back in a couple weeks with some new guests to kick off season 6 of the Sticks and Six podcast. Until next time, until next season, we leave you with our friend Alex Hobson and his hit single, 25.